Joining us now, Representative of Texas and member of the House Committee on Homeland Security, Congressman Will Hurd, who was once an undercover officer in the CIA. Good to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And in Boston, retired Admiral James Stavridis, who was the Dean of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. Good to have you both. Admiral, I'll start with you. I want to ask you about this raid in Syria. What is the significance of this raid and what we got out of it? Compared to the fall of Ramadi, which we're also watching happen?
Yeah, mixed bag coming out of Iraq. Both are important. I would say on the side of the raid, this is, as David said earlier, this is a signal of the ability to get inside with the kind of night raids that ultimately brought down al-Qaeda in Iraq back in Baghdad in the middle of the last decade. And it also is this combination of cyber, unmanned, and special forces, this new triad showing its teeth. On the Ramadi side, of course, this is a setback, but I would argue this is a defeat, not a complete disaster in the terms of the American Civil War. Think Bull Run, not Gettysburg. We can do this, but it's going to be challenging, and this is a signal to us that we've got work to do in Iraq.
The results of the raid, we got this money man, we have his, the wife has been taken in, and they've freed an 18-year-old Yazidi woman who was being used. But what of value in the fight against ISIS do you think was recovered there?
We'll know more after the FBI really starts the interrogative process with the captives. I think we ought to also recognize the strategic value of the demonstration, the sense of being able to reach into the mix and pull folks out. But I know we'll hear from the congressman that the essence of all of this is intel and its capability. This is a pretty striking operation.
So let's go there next. In terms of intelligence, from what you're seeing on the inside in Washington, what are you most worried about in terms of our approach in the fight against ISIS?
The thing that I'm most worried about is we need to be a little bit more aggressive. This example of capturing or killing Abu Sayyaf is a good example, but we need to be doing more of those because the intelligence value, as the Admiral said, that we get from this. Right now, there are hundreds of people doing DocX, document exploitation on, whether it was computers that were gained, the papers that were there. Abu Sayyaf was kind of the CFO of ISIS, and so he's a cabinet-level official, and so we've got to learn a lot about the operations of the organization, how they're raising money, how they're getting money, and this could lead to additional
So it could
attacks.
be a big get.
Right.
It could be.
Is he himself important as a mastermind of the financial networks that they've created, the oil revenue, the kidnappings? Is he important as a person, or is it more the documents and his knowledge of the network?
I think it's both. Taking someone that has this level of experience off the table, who's the bench? Is there going to be someone that has the same level of connections, same understanding of how to get things done? So removing him from the playing field is important, as well as obtaining all the information that someone in his position within the organization has.
You were in Iraq last week?
Yes, sir. A week and a half ago.
Can that country still be held together?
It was interesting. I fully expected, we met with the Shia leaders, Sunni leaders, and Kurd leaders, and I was expecting to hear 3 different stories, and they're actually committed to a one Iraq, and I wasn't expecting that. The question is going to become is we have to continue our train and equip mission in that region. It's going to be training the Shia forces. We need to, with the fall of Ramadi, it's an example of how we need to make sure the Sunni tribes get involved in this battle. We need to make sure that the Sunni tribes that are loyal to the Prime Minister are driving that wedge in Iraq against ISIS and the Sunni population there. And we need to make sure they continue to equip the Peshmerga, the Kurds in northern Iraq. So we have a long way to go, but I'm still hopeful that we can pull this off.
David Ignatius, jump in.
Well, I want to ask Will Hurd, who's one of my gurus in the modern CIA. Will is somebody that I know a little bit. Will, how can the CIA step up its game and play a more active role in gathering, exploiting intelligence, taking the fight to these ISIS operatives in Syria and Iraq? What do you think?
David, it's a great question. Good to see you this morning. It starts with the White House and our our strategy in the region. You know, there's a level of risk aversion that's happening throughout some of these conflict zones. The men and women in the CIA are trained for this type of operation, and we don't have individuals on the ground. And so in order to fix that problem, we have to operate from Kuwait, from Turkey, from Iraq, and it requires us to be a lot more aggressive. You know, the president needs to take the gloves off when it comes to our men and women in the CIA. You know, Ambassador Ryan Crocker, who's probably one of the best things that the Foreign Service has produced in a long time, he always says we need pumps and wingtips on the ground too in places like this in order to build relationships with you know, our partners in the region.
Well, I don't think the Admiral's wearing wingtips this morning, but Admiral, you said a few moments ago that the fall of Ramadi is neither Bull Run nor Gettysburg and that we could still do this. My question is, who is the we? And how is it possible to still do this, in your estimation?
Well, from a military perspective, what we want to do is take the fact that the ISIS has the central position, which they're exploiting at the moment, going to the north, coming to the south, operating in the desert to the west. We want to put them under a three-axis campaign of pressure. That's Peshmerga coming from the north. We need to arm them, as the congressman said. The bombing campaign going after their logistics, their bases in the west and in Syria. And we've got to get the Iraqi security forces in the game. And we've got to find an accommodation to work with the Shia militias, not Iran, but the Shia militias, and I'm encouraged by what the congressman said. I think if we put them under three-axis pressure, we've got a militarily viable strategy. In terms of the we, I think we also need to get the Turkish allies, NATO members who need to play more, especially in, and approach the Jordanians about being very involved in the training mission. We need more boots on the ground from the U.S., not 100,000, but probably 10,000. If we do all those things, Joe, I think we have a reasonable shot at this.
All right, Congressman Will Hurd here on the set, and Admiral Stavridis, thank you as well for joining us this morning.